Hello, everyone, and welcome to ASUG Best Practices SAP for Supply Chain. My name is Kelsey, and I'm your moderator for today's session, SAP Enterprise Warehouse Management Customer Panel with Leprino Foods and Patterson Companies. Before we begin, I wanted to share some quick housekeeping notes. If you have any questions for the speakers, please enter them into the Q&A portal, and you are welcomed and encouraged to engage with fellow attendees via the room chat feature on the right of your screen as well. Enough for me. At this time, I'm pleased to introduce two of the speakers who will be kicking off today's panel, Stephanie Weiss and Jonathan Bragg from Mindset Consulting. And with that, I will hand it over to Jonathan and Stephanie to get us started.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kelsey. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I hope you're enjoying the ASUG Supply Chain Conference thus far. And in this session, we really wanted to bring some real customers together to be able to talk about how they're handling all of their warehousing in SAP. So what Stephanie and I are going to do, we're going to introduce our customer panel. And then we have 4 topics that we're going to go through just on how to build business cases, how to look at S4, really some of the analytics that are involved in this, and just overall lessons learned on the journey. So as we go through, as we want to bring our customers in here, first, just a very quick intro for Leprino Foods. We have 3 folks from Leprino, both Steve, Adam, and Mitch. And Leprino Foods is headquartered in Denver. They're a global leader in mozzarella cheese and dairy nutrition products. And they are currently running ECC EHP8 with a very customized solution in EWM. So welcome Leprino. How's it going? And next, we also have our folks from Patterson Companies. So Patterson Companies is a value-added distributor. They're very focused in providing best-in-class products, services, and technology to dental and animal health. So they're headquartered out in St. Paul, Minnesota, and they are currently running ECC, EHP8, but they also have a highly customized WM system. They're also running distributed EWM in some of their warehousing and some of their environments, and that came a lot from both the animal health and Patterson Companies sides of the business. So please welcome both Sasha Boyd and Shannon Weaver from Patterson. So with that, this is a pretty quick session. We have a pretty big panel here today. We're going to jump right into the questions. And so question 1 is on our next slide here. We wanted to talk about building the business case. And Stephanie, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you to talk through this topic.
Great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Welcome, Leprino and Patterson. Thank you so much for participating in our panel discussion. The first question really goes to Leprino Foods. Would like to ask, you're currently running standard WM today. Do you see functionality that's needed in your environment that warrants EWM? And if so, how are you going about discovery of what's in EWM and what's the best fit? And how are you building that business case that supports the benefits from a business standpoint?
Mitch, Adam, I'll let you guys go first, and then I'll add some color afterwards.
Sure, we can take that. You know what? So some of the things that, and again, thank you all for letting us speak today. In our considerations for all of this, we've seen right now we're trying to overcome a lot of manual processes. So the fact is that what EWM provides us is our ability to get away from that, as well as primarily focusing on standardization. We don't have a unique situation here where each one of our plants are pretty autonomous, and what happens is that they have their own business processes. They have specific ones that they do, but there are some special cases. And what we're trying to do is through the EWM process is hopefully unify a lot of those, put a lot of things into the system that they're currently doing offline. So that has been something that we have been trying to achieve for the last few years, and we're continuing to do so. And we believe that EWM would provide us the ability to be able to do that as well. It also, one of the other things that we would hope to get from that is the ability to be able to tie into other areas of the organization. So, for example, although we have a warehouse management, we do transportation, for example, separately. Procurement is done separately. Everything is kind of maintained. It has its own little silo that eventually gets tied together. We're hoping that with the leveraging of EWM and the other products that SAP is providing, we can tie all those pieces together. And I'll turn it over to Adam and Steve for their input as well.
Yeah, so thanks, Mitch. So as Stephanie had said, we are very customized in a lot of the things that we do. So looking at the EWM solution was a way for us to also present back to our business how to get back to standard SAP. How can we use things the way they were designed, get away from all the customization that we do, and really focus back on how SAP was meant to be used and focusing on that. So through our build sessions or design sessions with Stephanie and looking at our current process, we spent a lot of time looking at pinpoints and how we could improve the business functionality by using EWM.
The last thing I would add is, and Mitch and Adam are absolutely correct. We want to refine, get to standardization, but the other thing that we want to take a look at is give the plants to be able to work when we have to take a system down. So that downtime mitigation, so a distributed EWM solution was one of the things that we want to take a look at to say, hey, we want to minimize the impact to our warehouses when we actually have to do a system upgrade or something else that is unforeseen in that space. So that's one of the things I was driving this as well. So thank you.
Definitely makes sense. So I think that probably wraps up our first topic area. Let's go ahead and run to the next topic area. So topic number 2, and Stephanie, I'll let you take this one as well, but it's really around how we build out the roadmap for S4. Where are you guys at?
Yes, so this question is targeted for both Leprino and Patterson. So we'd love to hear your feedback and comments on this. The question is, one is, where are you in your S4 roadmap today? And the second part to that question is when you're kind of looking at the different WMS options, which one really fits your needs better and why? So stockroom management, embedded, distributed EWM, have you looked at advanced versus basic, and so forth?
I'll go first for Leprino Foods. I think in our conversations and excellent workshops that we did with Stephanie going forward, at our WMS options, I think we were kind of a hybrid of advanced decentralized EWM and stockroom management, especially maybe a stockroom management functionality for our third-party logistics and a decentralized EWM for our manufacturing plant. We're still building the case. It doesn't mean we rule out other things. It's just that was one of the items that actually because we're focusing strictly on decentralized EWM, but Stephanie had made us aware that we can have a mix, and it may be a better fit to say, hey, don't force something to fit into this avenue. Use what the best capabilities and try to keep a streamlined, standardized solution. And that seems to be the best of both worlds with those two options.
Sasha or Shannon, did you have any feedback?
Yeah, I mean, we're at Patterson, we're just kind of starting our discussions around this, so we don't have a lot of feedback yet, but I do know with our animal health business and our Patterson business being on 2 separate instances of SAP, figuring out what we need to do to combine them is going to be part of our roadmap, trying to, when we go to S4, we want to have them all together on the same solution. So that's going to be a huge determining factor in when and the timing of that. To the point of decentralized or embedded, we've had some high-level discussion about it, and to the point from Leprino, where it doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all. Like some of our bigger facilities may end up continuing to stay decentralized, and maybe some of our smaller warehouses or our branches might go with an embedded version. So it could be a hybrid of both.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense, just based on where you're coming from within WM and EWM distributed environments. It sounds like trying to consolidate into a global S4 instance once you're able to get there. So yeah, that's great.
Have you guys, as part of the kind of like the deployment or implementation strategy, have you given much thought to how you're planning to do that system migration? Are you considering taking your existing structures and moving them into the S/4HANA environment? Or do you think you would start kind of from a greenfield implementation?
On the Patterson side, I mean, we're still discussing that. I think we're looking towards possibly doing a greenfield since we're trying to bring two together. That way we can build the important pieces of each one into the new one. I think that's the way we're leaning, but obviously we're way early in the process. So,
And
How about Leprino?
Stephanie, from the Leprino side, we're looking right now currently at a lift and shift. A lot of that is really due to the change management piece and the concerns about risk mitigation and change management. So we really want to control that. So we're going to begin with probably a lift and shift process, and then slowly over a period of time, probably migrate to EWM. We do have it built into our roadmap for 2023. We're undertaking some other things, the migration to S4 and what we've done to this point. So we're going to try to do that, and we're trying to take step in the process. But we'll probably look initially, as I say, when we go live with S4, we'll do the stockroom management lift and shift process, and then move towards more of an EWM as we progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it would be a hybrid of brownfield, greenfield. Brownfield, some of the processes will just refine, and some greenfield will take advantage of some of the opportunities that EWM will offer to us that we currently don't have available.
Mm-hmm. So kind of along those same lines for both Leprino and Patterson, as you look forward to kind of S4 and the capabilities and functionalities available in EWM, what are you most looking forward to? Like, what functionality gets you excited in S4HANA?
Well, I can speak for Leprino, and I think the big one for us, other than just getting away from the manual processes that we currently do today, is really that downtime mitigation strategy. That has been a pain point for our company for a very long time. We do have manual process that, once again, if there's a system-related issue, we will fall back on, and we'd like to try to eliminate that as much as possible. So I think we're really looking forward to just the ability to have some of that downtime mitigation.
Yeah, and I would add to that, Mitch, also from a tactical standpoint, for our warehouse drivers, the ability to queue tasks will be definitely a lot better as opposed to how we're doing it on the WM. We're to point on the RF. So if you're in the process of your TO, you really kind of have to finish that or cancel it. Sometimes in the real life, you don't have the opportunity. You have multiple things you have to do. So the ability to queue tasks would be a good tactical and operational opportunity that we can take advantage as well.
Oh, absolutely, Steve. I mean, there's a lot of efficiencies, opportunities here that we can certainly take advantage of. But again, it's going to be it's going to be a very methodical, slow approach to that. But at the end of the day, we believe we'll get there.
Great. Sasha, Shannon, what are you looking most forward to?
Well, I mean, like I said, we're early on in exploring the S4 space. We're already on EWM, so we kind of know already what EWM can do. I think if we do what I'm kind of leaning towards and doing the greenfield, it'll give us the ability to kind of start fresh again, maybe get rid of some of the mistakes we made on the first go around and kind of clean that stuff out of there and start fresh. So that's actually, personally, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's a lot of that as well, but a lot of unification between animal health and the rest of the business for Patterson, because right now it's very difficult from an analysis standpoint to kind of unify that data all together at the end of the day. So if we're actually operating on the same system, I look forward to that greatly when the data will all be together.
Mm-hmm. Now, currently right now you're running a distributed EWM system. As you look forward to S4, do you think you would continue to use a distributed environment, or would you look at potentially rolling out an embedded version of EWM?
I think initially our largest facilities would probably stay distributed. That's just my opinion. Like, we haven't gotten into all the details, but we do have some really small warehouses that are currently on decentralized and distributed EWM, and those would be the prime ones I would think would definitely be candidates to be embedded for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So I think we can move on to our next topic. Jonathan?
All right. Yeah. Our next topic is it's something that has come up for Stephanie and myself a number of years in our careers, and it's all about warehouse analytics. And we worked with a lot of folks within their warehouse analytics platforms, and have even built some tools internally to actually go against some warehouse analytics. And so I wanted to ask this group, is this still a pain point? Is this a pain point for each of you in the warehouse as people are on the floor picking, packing, actually loading the trucks? Do you have real-time tools in place today? And how much actual time is spent by whether it's a data analytics person or someone pulling this data together manually from something like a warehouse monitor to get through. So I know, Sasha, we worked together a little bit on some of this type of stuff. So why don't you go ahead and go first around kind of some of the tools and technologies that have been put in place, and kind of how much you still see a pain point in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, we worked with Mindset, you obviously know about this, to develop a lot of Fiori tools to help us to have that real-time view, because we had none. It was all, out of SAP, out of the monitor, and it can be very difficult for people to pull that data, and we're having issues with different warehouses pulling data up different ways. And so at the end of the day, we couldn't be 100% sure that we were looking at the same data from each warehouse for comparisons and for analytics. And so with the Fiori tools that Mindset helped us develop, that's actually helped quite a bit. And that is live. They report in real time. We're able to give our supervisors and those on the floor a view of what's happening in the warehouse throughout the day. However, that still doesn't encompass all of our analytics, because that is a live view. It's today. Tomorrow, it'll be tomorrow. And so we have been working on developing some BI reports that will help to pull those data points together, those analytics the following day, because right now we're still doing a lot of manual reporting. And I would say there is someone at each of our facilities. Shannon, how many facilities do we have total just in the Patterson space?
We have 16 warehouses.
All right, so in each of our 16 warehouses, we have someone spending about 20 to 30 minutes every day pulling together that data out of the monitor and putting it into a manually maintained spreadsheet. And so that is what we are trying to get away from with our BI reports that we're developing, but it is still very much right now a pain point, and it's something that we kind of put off developing these analytics when we went live with SAP, and if we could do it all over again, it would be great if we developed this right at the very beginning. Yeah.
Yep, I think that's always the first scope item to kind of be deprioritized, right? We have to go live on this date, and reports can come the day after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. From a functional standpoint, we went live and reporting, like you said, got dropped off the list. But what was the first thing that they were hounding me on, in the middle of the next round of go lives was, hey, we need good reporting on the first round, and you can't do both at the same time. That's how we kind of went down the road of pulling data and dumping it in a spreadsheet, and yeah, it was a mess. So yeah, the Fiori tools you guys built were great, and we're continuing to work on the BI reports to help with that as well.
Yeah, and it's something really interesting. It's a fun process we go through, just because at least for this, I was able to go to a couple of the Patterson warehouses and kind of see how the floors operated, and just to see how fast everything happens in a warehouse all the time. People are jumping into the warehouse monitor in the back end of SAP, and it's a little bit of a mess if you don't know where to look at right away. Right, you're always trying to see, okay, what was completed, what wasn't completed, how do I get to the right filtered view, everybody has their own variant, right? Oh, I love Sasha's view. I don't like Steve's view, for example. Like everybody has their own different way of looking at all the data. So no, that's really interesting. I invite Leprino, Steve, Mitch, or Adam. Do you have a lot of manual reporting in place today? Do you use a lot of man hours to be able to compile reports right at the warehouse floor?
Yeah, Jonathan, today we do spend a lot of time with manual reports. There are some things we pull out of SAP, some things we pull out of BI. From a KP standpoint, we probably spend a couple hours each week trying to figure out what the analysts or what the operators are pulling at the warehouse level, looking at pounds per labor hour, those type of things. Coming from the warehouse side, I spent most of my time in operations in warehouses, and it was always nice to see what the operators were actually doing, but pulling the data, it'd be great to have it more real time, instead of doing it at the end of the week or beginning of the next week. And it's definitely something that excites our business partners, to create these Fiori apps to start pulling in this data, get more real-time analytics and those type of things. It is something we'll definitely be looking at as we continue down our S4 and EWM path.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen just a lot of man hours saved in having some of those canned things already available for folks, right? Another part of it, and I'm thinking, one of the applications that was really important to folks was more around how much, how employees are performing. So I know a lot of warehouses do pay for performance metrics, and you're either trying to calculate, like you said, Adam, either at the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, to try to get these pay for performance metrics back in. But is that something that's still that? Do you have pay for performance metrics now for folks, and you're trying to see how much they can pick?
From the Leprino side, we run all of our own data. We're looking at total pounds that are produced versus pounds shipped out versus hours that are worked by the operators. And between 3 systems, we pull all this data together and create the KPIs that we report out each month. And then we have scorecards per the 9 warehouses on how well they're performing, on time order delivery versus how well operators are doing and those type of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think Sasha, Shannon, you guys do a little bit of the pay for performance stuff in the warehouse. Is that right?
Correct. We utilize a lines per hour system where employee warehouse level is what we call it, is based on their LPH, and that affects their pay grade. And we are able to now have that data. We have it both in Fiori and in our BI reports. And we actually recently reevaluated, or are in the process of reevaluating our LPH for each warehouse, since SAP EWM has changed the LPH baseline that we used to have when we were a more manual system before. But yeah, we are able to get those data points at this time.
Very cool. Any other thoughts on warehouse analytics? Otherwise, we can jump to our last topic here.
Jonathan, one other thing I will call out, and this may be from a little bit higher level, but one of the nice things about the analytics and having that information available in real time is the fact that you can make real-time decisions. That's something we can't currently do today. So, we have to basically wait until, obviously, we spool up into SAP and we can run some type of reporting to identify things. The real-time data, one of the real benefits here is we feel like that we can make decisions on the fly. And we can make accurate decisions because we know our inventory status, we know the trucking status, we know everything that we'll need to know. So that's one of the reasons why this is really, the Fiori app is really important to us in our journey going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially as you look at warehouse by warehouse or regional or up to the corporate level, right? If you're speaking the same language, it's perfect.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Yeah. And our last topic is pretty open-ended. We're just, looking to share with the ASUG community for you guys, any small, quick lessons learned from WS implementations? EWM, WM, things you would or wouldn't do again?
I think from my perspective at Patterson, a little history on my part, I came from the animal health side. We became part of Patterson right in the middle of Patterson's, right, I guess towards the end of their blueprinting and ready to go live on EWM. And we already had EWM on our side. So I wasn't a part of the blueprinting phase, but I was kind of part of the rollout phase. And what I noticed, and I think they would readily admit, they ended up configuring their EWM system to look a lot like their legacy system, just because they were afraid of change at the user level. And I think they missed an opportunity to examine why they do what they do. And a lot of times now that we're going through it, we're finding, well, we did it that way because that's the way legacy required us to do it, the legacy system. So I would just encourage people to really use it as a time to analyze why you do what you do. There might be a good reason for it, and then you have to account for it in EWM, but maybe you can just do it the way SAP was kind of designed and you get the same result. So that's what I would encourage you to do.
Yeah, to pile on to that, I agree. When you do your implementation, what we didn't do is we didn't do it strategically. We looked at what we're doing today and maybe a year out or two, and we streamlined our functionality in SAP a little bit better than we did on our legacy system. And I used to be a developer on our legacy system, and all the rule sets from the legacy system, and we kind of ported those over to SAP. Yes. With the mindset saying, hey, we'll never do that. We'll never have multiple deliveries on a sales order or something like that. Well, now we're finding out that maybe we shouldn't have pigeonholed ourselves there, because there's some opportunities there as your customer portfolio grows or changes, or we bring new brands in. That would have been an opportunity. Maybe we may have not used it, but I would like to have had it in the toolbox. So if we would have stayed closer to a standard SAP rollout, which is kind of what Mitch had alluded to, or the EWM, that'll get us back to standard processes, we won't be pigeonholed, and then we put customization on top of customization on top of customization. And it's always coming back, well, it sounded like a good idea at the time. And then, there's a cost of ownership to every customization that you do. So that's the biggest takeaway that I've had from growing up in the legacy days, going to SAP and seeing what I can do going forward.
Yeah, I would concur with Steve. Absolutely. One of the interesting things going through this exercise has been we've recognized the fact that the importance of simplification and standardization, ensuring that we're creating a standard process. Because ultimately, with the money that you're spending on these systems, what you want is sustainability. And the fact is that when you start to build and you start to customize, you start to do things, you break your system, then you have a lot of maintenance on the back end, as Steve alluded to. And then the other thing too is it just becomes very complicated, because now in our case, when we have multiple plants, you have to know how each plant operates so that we can sustain their processes and make sure that things are running appropriately. So if you go into this, as you go into this exercise, I would definitely look at how and again, this history always involved, as Shannon pointed out in his case, in Patterson. But you really want to consider that as you're strategically building this out, to say, okay, what is sustainable long term and what's going to be best? And again, the change management piece is going to be extremely hard. Nobody's saying it's going to be easy for anybody, us nor the business, but at the end of the day, it's going to make the most sense long term.
And then I just have to hop in at the end real quick and reiterate once again, just because I am an analyst and this is what means a lot to me. Do not sleep on getting your KPIs and metrics figured out towards the beginning of your go live process. That is such a huge pain point to add on later. So try to get that sorted out towards the beginning. Don't put it off. It is important, and it will have an impact very shortly after go live.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. Even like Jonathan said, it's the first thing to fall off the list, but make sure you have at least some basic real-time and easily reportable basic functions that you need. That way, at least it can bide your time so you can enhance it later without too much pain to the business or the functional groups.
Definitely. Well, I think we're almost at time here. So thank you both, Stephanie, myself. I want to thank Steve, Mitch, Sasha, Shannon, Adam for being able to join us today on the ASIG conference. I know these are always a lot of fun, and getting real customers and real experiences in is number one, and how we want to share with the ASIG community. So if there are any questions, I know we didn't get too much time for Q&A here. There is a Mindset virtual booth here at the supply chain conference. So if you want or have any questions for these folks, you can always ping us there as well, and we can reach out and get some of those questions answered. But otherwise, I think Stephanie, if you want to any more wrap up, then we can pretty much call it done.
No, thank you again to all of to the Leprino and Patterson folks. I think it was a really great conversation, and I definitely learned a lot.
All righty. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.